Ladies and jellyfish, shalom! Spectacular Spider-Man is a show I've talked about countless times on my channel, but today I'll be talking about the most infamous aspect of Spectacular that still left a bitter taste in people's mouths many years later, which is the way it ended prematurely. The final episode of Spectacular Spider-Man aired November 18th, 2009, titled Final Curtain, which was a pretty fitting name in retrospect, as it never got a follow-up after only 26 other episodes before it. So why don't we take a look at it today, shall we? The episode starts off with Spidey on the hunt for Green Goblin, attempting to finally reconcile the true identity of Gobby, whether it was truly Harry, his father, or someone else. We get a cool fight scene between him and the Gob Squad as he's unable to get Harry's location from them. Yeah, at this point in the story, Harry's been AWOL for a while and we see him run to Gwen's house and ask for her help. Spectacular Spider-Man. Sorry, I love that song. Right now, we have a hunch that Harry is still Gobby, but as we'll soon discover, the truth is a bit more complicated than that. After going through typical Peter Parker girl trouble with Liz, Gwen calls Peter over to see Harry after he's returned. He admits the truth about juicing up on globulin green and becoming the Goblin, and also says he destroyed a stash of the juice and remembers someone else as Gobby kidnapping him, which is why he was missing. Following this mystery-esque plot, now Peter suspects Norman to be the true Goblin, which would match Harry's story and previous hunches from Peter. But as Peter's leaving, he confesses the truth to Gwen and they both feel mutually in love with each other.
I've been in love with you since 7th grade.
Which is all good, but they don't kiss each other behind Liz and Harry's backs, which is a pretty respectable thing. Kudos to the writers for promoting that kind of thing on a kids show. But the funny thing is, Harry says this:
I couldn't ask for two better friends.
And we see him listen to and react to Gwen saying she loves Peter, so this would probably make him bitter to both these guys, so just remember this. Spidey shows up to Oscorp to see Harry and Norman together, and despite having a hunch about Norman, all his clues seem to go nowhere. I'll add the butler saying hi to all of them was kinda cute.
Mr. Osborn, Master Harry, Spider-Man.
A lot happens at once here, and while I could say it feels rushed, it's also paced kinda perfectly for the tone and mystique surrounding all these characters and all their truths and lies. Spider-Man's completely baffled, and before we can even get a little hint of boring in this episode, we're hit with a massive explosion, literally. The reveal of it was also quite awesome, I have to say. It gave me Under the Floorboard vibes from Inglourious Bastards. The way the bombs were seen ticking right before they all explode, almost killing Spidey. I just wish the spider sense actually kicked in a second before they all blew up, since that's kind of the whole point of it. But at least this show is actually consistent about the spider sense, unlike pretty much every movie and other show. The use of the pumpkin bombs in this episode is also awesome, and the layering of the sound effects of dozens or hundreds of them was really well done. Then Gobby just flies in out of nowhere and fights the frickin' dude. The fight scene is choreographed pretty well and adds some more action to the episode, but it does go on for a little bit too long, especially with the annoying cryptic dialogue Goblin gets, which is made even more annoying given the way his voice has to sound.
Nicely played, but wheels within wheels are already in motion, and I'll be back to see you crushed beneath them.
Yeah, he's not Joker, guys. Let's not force this kind of dialogue when he could be cracking jokes instead.
Not so fun when you're flying blind, huh, Gobby?
Too true. More fun to fire blind.
I was the more accurate shooting blind, and what the hell? How'd he just disappear? What is this crap? Spider-Man 3 did this as well. How does a goblin just disappear into the null every 2 seconds? He's not Batman either, guys. I do like this tracking shot of Spidey's arm. It is kind of cool to see a POV angle of him once in a while. But while I'm on the topic of animation, can we talk about the jarring and idiotic ways the elbows in this show are drawn? Why is there a connecting line in that joint? Is he a mannequin? This happens all over the place and it's not even an error. Just, what the hell is that about?
A voice can be mimicked. Technology copied.
It's not the voice, it's the words. Not the tech, but the moves.
It's not about money, it's about sending a message. Back to the mystery element, now that Norman and Harry are out of the picture, the scale tips to Donald Mencken, Norman's assistant, who apparently wiped his entire file, and also had access to globulin green. God damn it, why are his elbows like that? I swear to God, if you weren't voiced by the dude who also played Leo 2007, I would totally be mad right now. Who am I kidding? He was also on Johnny Gather and Johnny Test. I will destroy you, cretin! Back to High School Musical, Peter and Gwen still haven't broken up with their dates.
No worries. I'm not the dating police.
Dating police. Good one.
Dating please, good one. After Peter breaks up with Liz, which doesn't exactly end well for him, he goes to Donald Menken's new residence, and surprise of all surprises, Gobby baits him into a room with knocked out gas, until Harry and his father break the windows using the helicopter, letting the gas outside. Now if we take a step back from all this for a second, we can figure out that if Donald Menken was innocent, then the only other person who would have wiped his file would have been Norman, which would imply he either works for or is the Goblin. So if you're an observant person, you probably already know the twist coming from a mile away. Then we get another fight scene with Red and Green, and honestly this one's much better than the first one. This one we swing across the city with fast moving visuals, now with Harry and Norman, pumpkin bombs all over the place, and Gob Squad fighters and flying drones on the rooftops for Spidey to go through. The action here is really impressive, although I can't say the same for the CGI drone things they fly in. They look a bit too SpongeBob in Tehran for my taste. After all that, Spidey finally unmasks Goblin to reveal it was actually Norman all along, who had been masquerading along with Chameleon to keep people guessing who the true Goblin was.
I heard you apologize to Spider-Man last night. Norman Osborn never apologizes.
Gee, maybe that suspicion would have come in handy when you were telling clues to Spider-Man, not right when it's made obvious to you, you goof. Also, how'd you know it was a mask? Goddamn, I would have laughed so hard if his face just stretched like when Tyler pulled on Ben's face to prove he's human, or when Kevin pulled the wig off the janitor.
I am janitor, idiot boy.
I'm getting distracted here. Norman reveals all the secrets of his plan, including dressing up and spreading Harry to make him look like the Goblin all along, and working with Chameleon to hide the footsteps. And the climax of this episode comes when Spidey launches him into a water tower full of pumpkin bombs, causing a massive explosion right in Norman's face. The most heart-wrenching part is hearing Harry's scream of pain, and Peter's one-eye reaction is a beautiful cherry on top. I honestly find the entire death scene and climax in general to be extremely rushed, when it could have been much more emotional with a longer emphasis on the death, with some better music and louder sound design in there, because the way it is right now makes me wish we got less stupid high school scenes and more of this meaningful crap. Cut to the funeral, as Harry is bitter about Spider-Man killing his father rather than helping him, and he tells Gwen that being with her is all that's keeping him sane. This is particularly annoying to me because he acts oblivious about Gwen's messages to him and how she doesn't like him anymore, even though we literally saw him overhear them earlier saying they love each other. It's almost like he's taking advantage of her, but I guess that's Peter's karma after indirectly killing Harry's father. It's not even like the Toby film when Gobby killed himself. Here it was basically Peter placing the bomb on the glider that did it. So I totally feel the emotional connection we get at the end of the episode, as Peter has to come to terms with responsibility as it comes with power. And probably the highlight of this episode is the very final scene, as we see Norman, still alive in the airport, as we're left with a cliffhanger that suggests he didn't actually die. I don't know how the hell that's possible after flying headfirst into a pool of bombs, but you know what? It was supposed to keep the executives from canceling the show, so I respect that attempt. And I do mean attempt.
Sometimes I wonder why
Spectacular Spider-Man got cancelled on November 18, 2009. It's rather sad to say this really, about a cartoon with so much potential, getting cancelled after only 26 episodes. Really, it was one of the most mistreated cartoons of all time, and very few shows of this quality ever received the type of backstabbing that this show received. Greg Weisman, the creator of Spectacular, had reportedly wanted to make 65 episodes or 5 seasons, and reportedly had plans to bring in some awesome new villains like Scorpion, Ghost Rider, Hydro Man, Carnage, and Hobgoblin. While those weren't as famous as characters compared to the cast we got in these 26 episodes, it still would have been really interesting to see how the show would have gone on. So why did it cancel so soon? Well, for one, the fate of the show is heavily dependent on the ratings for Season 2. And while the ratings for Season 2 aren't currently available anywhere, I don't think that was the reason for its cancellation, as Season 1's ratings were fantastic for the network. No, the real reason the show got cancelled was because of something that always ruins a show: corporate meddling. On the 1st of September 2009, the TV rights to Spider-Man were returned from Sony to Marvel, while Eric Rollman, the president of Marvel Animation, stated that no decisions have been made either way about the fate of Spectacular. This would later be proven wrong when Disney bought Marvel 3 months later for $4 billion. While today we consider Disney as a global superpower, owning Lucasfilm, Fox, ESPN, Pixar, and yes, Marvel, back in 2009, it was a much different story. While it was later proven that Sony had still kept ownership of Spectacular and all the production elements, such as storylines and character designs, they had given up the rights to use Spider-Man and associated characters to Marvel, so technically neither of them had the necessary rights to continue the series. And again, Disney acquiring Marvel Marvel just a few months after this whole shebang didn't help anyone's case. A few months later, Marvel announced a new Spider-Man series coming to Disney XD. This, of course, later turned into what we all know as Ultimate Spider-Man. The very same day as this announcement, Greg Weisman told IGN, "I've heard nothing directly from Marvel, but I think the Ultimate Spider-Man announcement makes it fairly clear the Spectacular is over." This, along with Marvel and Sony confirming this, nailed in the coffin for Spectacular Spider-Man. It was certainly dealt an unfair hand, and was undoubtedly the best Spider-Man cartoon to ever air. But I like to think positively, and think that its cancellation just kept it at its pure form, before seasonal raw and lack of quality could kick in. It was ultimately one of the best cartoons of all time, and was, in my opinion, truly spectacular.